Okay, let's go straight to Brussels now. That is Catherine Ashton, the High Representative for Foreign Affairs for the EU. Of course, that meeting there of EU foreign ministers about arming rebels in Syria. Let's listen to what she has to say.
The possibility of a safe and peaceful future. And we will do all we can to support initiatives in that direction. Secondly, we of course reaffirmed our commitment to humanitarian support for the people within Syria and also for the many displaced people currently outside of Syria and neighbouring countries. We have expressed on many occasions our concern for those who are having to leave their homes, but also for the populations who are willing and have found themselves hosts to large numbers of people who are coming across borders in search of refuge, safety and security. And in the course of our discussions, we looked, of course, to the question of what we would do about the renewal of our restrictive measures. And I'm going to read to you the declaration that accompanies the Council conclusions, both of which will be available, if they're not already, will be available very shortly. And the Council declaration says the following, that the Council agreed the following elements on the renewal of the restrictive measures against Syria. Number one, at the expiry of the current sanctions regime, the Council will adopt for a period of 12 months restrictive measures in the following field, as specified in Council Decision 2012-739 CFSP. Export and import restrictions with the exception of arms and related material and equipment which might be used for internal repression. Restrictions on financing of certain enterprises. Restrictions on infrastructure projects. Restrictions of financial support for trade. Financial sector, transport sector, restrictions on admission, freezing of funds and economic resources. 2. With regard to the possible export of arms to Syria, the Council took note of the commitment by Member States to proceed in their national policies as follows. The sale, supply, transfer or export of military equipment or of equipment which might be used for internal repression will be for the Syrian National Coalition for Opposition and Revolutionary Forces and intended for the protection of civilians. Member States shall require adequate safeguards against misuse of authorisations granted, in particular relevant information concerning the end user and final destination of the delivery. Member States shall assess the export licence applications on a case-by-case basis, taking full account of the criteria set out in Council Common Position 2008-994 CFSP of the 8th of December 2008, defining common rules governing control of exports of military technology and equipment. Member States will not proceed at this stage with the delivery of the equipment mentioned above. The Council will review its position before the 1st of August 2013 on the basis of a report by the High Representative after having consulted the UN Secretary-General on the developments related to the US-Russia initiative and on the engagement of the Syrian parties. That's the end of the statement.
Thanks very much indeed. I'll take two. It's rather late in the evening. I think I saw Lawrence. If you could just identify yourself, Lawrence.
Lawrence Norman, Wall Street Journal. Sorry, I'm just slightly digesting the statement that you've just read out. First of all, just a question on that. You said that member states would agree not to proceed at this stage with sending the equipment. So is that a UK-French promise for a certain period of time not to send arms, and if so, how long does that last? And just a broader question. I mean, this is being presented now as an agreement, but the reality is the British and the French turned up. There was a discussion that lasted all day, and they simply didn't budge. And there are a lot of people leaving the meeting today who are going to be pretty unhappy with this. Is this not a pretty profound defeat for an EU common foreign policy?
First of all, we will make sure that you get copies of this, and if there are further questions that you've got, we'll make sure you get access to that. I appreciate you're trying to digest it. The thing that I read out was Member States will not proceed at this stage with the delivery of the equipment mentioned above. You will have to ask France and the UK what their individual position would be on that. I would not though I could wish to speak for them because they're busy and happy to say themselves. The reality is you weren't in the meeting and I was. And so I can tell you that this was a really important debate and discussion. And I've said this at the European Council, I've said it publicly many times. All positions on this are really honourable because everybody is trying to work out how best to support the people of Syria and how best to ensure that we get to a political solution as quickly as possible. And what I saw around the table, and the reason it went on for so long, was a strong desire for the European Union to come together and put together a position that I've read out to you. Now, within that, you're quite right to point to the fact that member states may take different decisions. That doesn't mean that we've lost the capacity to have a common policy. What it does mean is there's a recognition that in trying to establish how best to support the people of Syria, countries will want to make some decisions, but within a framework that I've described to you in the context of what I read out on Section 2 of being a European framework.
Madam Ashton, is there any political message do you see in the communique that you just read for President Assad and also for those who behind Mr. Assad who are arming the regime? Do you see a sense, a political message that you are addressing this evening to President Assad, but also to those behind him who are arming the Syrian regime?
We've made our position on President Assad very clear for a long time. We're supporting a process that we hope will begin very soon. It's called Geneva II, for want of another description. I've no idea whether it will be in Geneva or not. But the purpose of it is to try and bring together, on the basis of some of the things that have been said at Geneva some time ago, about trying to find a way through that would ensure, and the most fundamental thing that I'm concerned about, the people of Syria, the ordinary people, feel that they can live their lives peacefully and securely, and that they all can have a vested interest and a stake in the country that they come from, they wish to live in. And how we get to the point of developing that transitional process is very important. But I would also say the quicker we do it, the faster we will see the situation improve. And I don't have to tell you or anybody here just how terrible the situation is. The numbers of people who've lost their lives, the numbers of people who've been injured, families who've been distraught and destroyed by this, the number of children not in school, the traumatised population, people really suffering despite the incredible amount of aid that everyone's trying to push in, and the situation for those who fled from their homes across borders and the impact that that is having on a whole region. I don't have to say any of that, but I do say it, that more than anything else, we now need to see a process begin that can try and resolve this. And in the end, we need a process that will take us to peace and security. And more than anything else, the unity of the EU on that is absolutely evident.